Right, in this video I want to do a very quick run through of how I can use Tightener to interact with remote instances of InDesign Server. So the setup is I'll have a Mac with Tightener installed, I'll have a PC with Tightener installed, the Mac has InDesign Desktop, the PC has InDesign Server. I'll set up two instances of InDesign Server on the PC and I'll interact from the Mac with those instances from the command line. So in order to do that, we need to have the Tightener gateway being used so that the Mac can actually interact with the remote Tightener nodes on the PC. By default, Tightener is not network enabled, so we need to use a specific gateway version of Tightener. And I'll actually go through all that config to set that up, and on the PC we'll have InDesign Server listening to commands coming over the Tightener bus. Right, so first thing is installing Tightener. So this Mac and the PC that I'll be using don't have Tightener installed yet, so all I need to do is extract the zip file, and then I can either double click or from the command line run the install command on the Mac. So I'll just double click it, that's it. So and if I now open a new terminal window, I can actually run various functions of Tightener. For example, I can do start console and actually interact on the command line with a node, Tightener node, so that works fine. I can do the same on the PC, so extract all, same zip file. Okay, so open up a command prompt. So I'll keep Tightener on the desktop, that's totally fine. So Tightener can be located anywhere, you can extract that zip file anywhere you want. So and then here I just run the install.bat file, and that installs Tightener on this PC. So close the window, and if I now run start console, that will work. And I can do sqrt3, oops, sqrt, doesn't matter, sqrt3. See, that works. So I have a Tightener node running. Okay, so now I need to start configuring. So by default, if you install Tightener, you get a default config which will assume you have the latest desktop version of InDesign installed. In the case of the Mac, that is correct. In the case of the PC, I actually want to use InDesign Server rather than InDesign. So on the Mac, there is not too much to reconfigure. So the default config is automatically installed, and I can change it by using edit config. And if I ever muck up my config, I can also run copy config, which gives me a fresh default config to play with. So I'll do edit config. And there's not much I need to change, except that I need to tell Tightener that we want to use the network gateway, and the rest of the installation is the same. And I also will tell the Mac that there will be two remote nodes for Tightener, so which are IDS1 and IDS2. So I'll have two. So I'm just adding two lines in the config. One says IDS1 refers to on Freddy, which is the Windows PC. There will be a instance of InDesign Server called IDS1, and I'll actually use the main engine. So that's all the config I need on the Mac. I can close this. So now it's always best to make sure all the background apps are stopped and then are forced to reread the config. So after changing the config, I always do kill apps, which stops the background apps, the background Tightener apps. So if I do what is running right now, there's nothing Tightener related running. And now I can do, I can actually also configure my local InDesign. So to make it tightener enabled, I need to install a plugin. Okay, and it's installed in InDesign, that's fine. So if I now do ID launch, ID launch will automatically pick up whatever InDesign version is configured in the config. So, and that's currently the latest InDesign, and that's running. So, and now I can actually see that I can interact with, oops, that's not what I wanted. I'll open a new terminal window, so I can do, for example, cd samples. That's a tightener command, and there I can do run remote extend script, send that extend script to InDesign, and the script I want to send is hello JSX. See, and now this local InDesign is now reacting by showing a dialog. So I can, from the command line, already talk to this local InDesign and shoot scripts to it, or I can also do direct commands, run remote, and then say, for example, alerts, hello Chris. See, now the alert is hello Chris, so I can directly from a command line. So now go back to InDesign Server. Also, we need to do some config. So what is running? So there's nothing running right now, that's good. We edit the config, so again there's a default config that has been installed by running the installation process. And here I need to reconfigure some more stuff. So first of all, I want to make sure we're network enabled. So I need to change the main tightener node to be network enabled and be a gateway. I also want to make sure we're talking to the server. So, and that is by changing a single string. Say we want this tightener machine to actually think about the InDesign server rather than InDesign. And then I also need to set up some, I'm going through my, I've actually overtyped. Okay, I need to actually say, well, I want certain versions of InDesign. So here I'm going to add into InDesign, so IDS1 and IDS2. So the word IDS1 will actually refer to instance 1 of InDesign, IDS2 will refer to instance 2 of InDesign. Save this. So okay, I've done what I needed to. I've made this thing network enabled. I can now close this window, and now I need to install the plugin. ID plugin install. Yeah, it has installed a plugin into InDesign Server. So now I'll launch my two instances. So I'll first do this. So I'm copy pasting from a little scenario, and then I InDesign Server configuration IDS1. So I'll biggen this up a bit. Okay, so now InDesign Server IDS1 is running. I'll open up a new window, and I'll again change the directory, and InDesign Server minus config IDS2. Also I'll open that up a bit. Okay, so now I have two InDesign servers running, IDS1 and IDS2. I can actually show that test and make sure my config is correct by first trying to locally interact with them. So let's first do what is running. See, there's two tightener nodes running, there is no gateway running. I can do run cd samples. So go to my sample scripts and run remote extend script. Tell IDS1 to run hello.jsx. See, and here IDS1 has output that, or I can do RRE REPL, IDS2, alert here. And there it is here. So IDS1 and IDS2, both from the same command line, can be interacted to. So now I need to make sure the gateway is running. Yep, the gateway is running. And on the Mac, I'm pretty sure the gateway should also be running. Yep, the gateway is running. So, and now on the Mac, I can now talk to that remote InDesign server. So I can say, for example, RRE REPL IDS1 alert from Mac 1, and that should work. Okay, and I can do RRE REPL IDS2 alert from Mac 2. So I can run scripts, I can run direct commands, whatever, and I can also do RRE REPL IDS3 InDesign alert on the Mac. See, and so now InDesign refers to this InDesign here, and if I switch to the PC, you see from Mac 1, from Mac 2, I've actually talked to those InDesign nodes on the remote PC. So now I'll actually tear all this down again, so you see that uninstalling is also very simple. So I just stop the server, and I can close those windows, I don't need them anymore. And then I go to my tightener, I'll kill apps, stop all the background apps, and then I can do uninstall all, and that will actually take away all the preferences, take away all the plugins, and remove the path changes and whatever, so it's as if tightener has not been there. And I can do the same on the Mac, so I can quit out of InDesign, and then I can see the tightener, and I can say kill apps, uninstall commands all, and that does the same thing. And that was the little demo. So we set up 2 instances of InDesign Server on a PC. We set up a single instance of InDesign Desktop on a Mac, and then from the Mac command line we've been interacting with all those different instances of InDesign or InDesign Server.